Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Narc Free Formula. My name's Freedom. Thank you for joining me. In tonight's episode, I am going to run through the top 10 red flags. So things that you need to pay attention to in the first stages of your relationship with a narcissist, sociopath, or psychopath. From now on, referred to just as Narc. Before I go on though, if you like any of my videos, please remember to like them, leave comments, and subscribe to the channel. Help me grow the channel. All right, so in the beginning of all relationships, everyone's on their best behavior, and the narc is no different. In fact, the love bombing phase can quite literally sweep you off your feet, have you so in love that you'll overlook a multitude of sins. It buys the narc time, and they will later, even though they are devaluing you further on down the track, they will kind of refer back to this love bombing stage. And what they do is they will kind of take you psychologically or emotionally back to that state, even if it's just for a night, but it's just enough to keep you hanging on, making you think, oh, we had it once, it was good in the beginning, we can be like that again if I just try harder, if I just put up with it, or if I just do more, give more, love more, all the things an narc wants you to do. But the reality is that it's just a game. Not only was the love bombing stage fake, but it will never go back. So once once the love bombing stage and the beginning of the relationship is over, you'll have what appears to be, a return to the honeymoon phase, but it's just a performance. His heart's not in it. I mean, not that they really have a heart in it in the first place, but the honeymoon is over, baby, as the saying goes. All right, these are the red flags you need to watch out for. And if you don't know what a red flag is, I suppose it's a psychological term for, something that you see that makes you go, hang on, what's going on here? It's something that your subconscious is trying to tell you to pay more attention to. All right, and some of these are obvious and some of these are not so obvious. But when you're in the first stages, like of the love bombing, you're literally going to be high on sex. This man's going to be adoring you, going to be making you feel like, just the queen, like there's no one like you. What you guys have is just so special. No one will ever be able to replace that. It's pretty heady and potent stuff. Like if you could sell it in a bottle, you'd make a fortune. All right, it's like a drug. So the number one, first red flag. So have a look at how his relationship with his ex or exes are. They say that the best indicator of future performance is past performance. So these blokes don't live in a bubble. Sure, you can have one bad ex, but if you've got more than one ex that you're saying is crazy, jealous, neurotic, insecure, such a bitch, like if he's saying that about more than one woman, that is a huge red flag, even if he's saying it about one woman. Because sure, people can be a bitch, but to continually refer to your ex in derogatory terms to your new partner or your new supplier is a huge red flag. So the way he's talking about her, about the ex, is how he will be talking about you in a few months down the track, or years down the track, or decades down the track. For some poor buggers, decades. All right, so if all of his exes are crazy or all still in love with him, if actually that's another one to watch out. If they're all still in love with him, what's going on there is the beginning of triangulation. He's using the exes to keep you on your best performance, keeping you on your toes, making sure that you know if you slip up, someone's waiting in the wings to take him back. So that in itself, highly manipulative behaviour. All right, and if his ex is still ringing him and they're still arguing a lot, you have to look at that and say, well, maybe it's not over. Maybe they haven't resolved their issues. Because most people, when they separate, yeah, they might have a bit of an argy-bargy for a little while, but they usually get over it and move on, right? But with a narcissist, it's impossible for them to do that. So they continue to try and get fuel and supply from their exes. So they're always arguing with them, always maintaining contact with them. All red flags. Pay attention. All right, and if he's still living with the ex, I've heard a few women saying this. Oh, he lives with the ex, but they're divorced, but they just can't afford to live separately. Yeah, right. Okay. Keep telling yourself, come on. There is a time and a place for a common sense. All right. No one lives with their ex because they can't afford to live separately. It's just not a thing. That's not real. What that is a married man who's screwing around, and a narcissist, what's worse. Okay? Or really, he's got no friends. He's got not one person on earth. He can't afford to get a rental. He's got not one friend on earth that he can go and stay with. Come on now. If that was the case, that would be a huge red flag right there. Why hasn't he got any friends he can go and stay with? So if he's, if you're hearing that story, oh yeah, he's, they sleep in separate beds, they sleep in separate rooms. Bullshit. Okay, he's still involved with them, with the wife. All right, so this one is not necessarily just about narcissists. This is a red flag in general for relationships, but I'm going to say it anyhow. So if someone's always broke, like what is he spending his money on? You need to find that out, because it's either going to be drugs, gambling, sex, or is it, a secret family that you don't know about, child support for a whole lot of brats that you don't know about. You need to find out that kind of stuff before you get involved or before you get committed. So if you're already involved, try and suss that stuff out. Pay attention. These are the signs and signals you need to be paying attention to. All right, so number 3, third red flag, if he abuses alcohol or other drugs. Once again, this is not just about narcissists. However, with narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, the combination of alcohol dependency or alcohol and other drug dependency, that's just a recipe for disaster. Quite seriously, I know, because that's where I've come from. And there's nothing more volatile than a psychopath who's going through drug withdrawal, or who needs to get some drugs into his system. It's just terrifying. You wouldn't want to be around it. So pay attention to that kind of thing. If it's drug paraphernalia, or if you're noticing odd behavior, like he's staying up all night some nights, these are signs and signals of drug use. So just pay attention to that. All right, number 4, red flag number 4. So if he's been in jail, look, sometimes good bloke go to jail. Not often though. Usually people who go to jail are people who've committed crimes. So you need to find out what crimes he's committed, and you need proof, because you don't want to be the woman who is giving blowjobs to a child molester, or something like that. You just don't want to be that woman. So that's the kind of stuff that is a huge red flag. You need to pay attention. You need to find out as much information as you can before going anywhere with someone who's been in jail. Red flag number 5, if he lies. We all know narcs lie. So Pay attention to the behaviour around lying. It might be little lies that you catch. It might be big lies. Or it might be things like, his words are just not congruent with his actions. So, maybe he's saying that he's, I don't know, really respects women and he's really respectful, loves his mum and something like that, and yet is actually really abusive to women. His words and his actions are not congruent. Red flag, huge red flag, because it's telling you he lies. And someone who lies pathologically, as in they can't help themselves, and like I said, a narcissist will lie just because they can. Like they get a kick out of it. They get a kick out of seeing if they can dupe you, seeing if they can trick you, and if they can, that makes them feel mighty powerful. So being in a relationship with someone who is a pathological liar is dangerous at best, and will probably end in some kind of heartbreak. I mean, there's just no doubt. You can't be involved with someone that you can't trust. And when it comes to narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, you cannot trust them. They're just not trustworthy. That's all there is to it. All right, red flag number 6. So if he's got a short fuse, like a volatile temper, if he's quick to rage. I remember the first time I witnessed the narcissistic rage. I was quite shocked, I've got to tell you. And it is like, people have referred to it as like seeing a demon. Their eyes go black. In my particular instance, he kind of has one eye that gets really huge and the other one gets really squinty, and it's just kind of strange and scary and a whole lot of things all at once. But the first time I saw it, it really freaked me out because I'd not actually felt anyone who was supposed to be, my friend or my lover or whatever. I'd never felt that kind of rage directed at me before from someone who professed to love me. So it was very strange. But anyhow, if they're quick to rage and they're quick to be volatile, you need to watch that, because further down the track in the devaluation and discard phase, those violent outbursts will end up becoming occasional or even daily, violence, actual violent acts, not just words. It'll be, go from, it'll be a progression. Usually it's a progression. They usually just check how much you will take, how much you'll put up with, and they might pull back just a little bit, just so they don't lose their supply. They want to give you as much abuse as they can, basically, because they've got a lot of rage in them and they want to take it out on someone, and you're the willing victim. You've put yourself in that role, and for them, anyone who takes their shit, in their mind, deserves everything they get. And as I said, they've got a lot of pent-up rage. They want to take it out on you. They just need an excuse. Any excuse will do. So, yeah, you just watch that. No one wants to be a punching bag. All right. Oh, and this one ties into, so the red flag number 7 actually ties into number 6. So acts of violence that are directed at you or others, pets or property. Because often the violence isn't directed at us per se. It's often directed at property. So a hole in the wall, just behind your head. So you saw it coming and you flinched, but he didn't hit you, he hit the wall, and that's in their warped mind. It's like, but see the control that I had. I love you because I could have punched you in the head, but I punched the wall. Never mind the fact that you were terrified and you thought you were about to be punched in the head. They've got this really warped way of thinking. So, as I said, acts of violence directed to property, pets or other people, over time will become violence directed at you if you stay. Red flag number 8. Watch how he treats people, people who are serving him. So like wait staff, cleaners, people that he doesn't want anything from, people that are insignificant to him. Watch how he treats them. They're usually quite, they kind of, they can be really rude. They can kind of be condescending. They can get angry. So the way he treats people, other people, I always think that's a really good indicator of a person's, overall character, how they treat everyone. I believe that you should treat everyone equally, quite literally, from, I don't know, the homeless bloke on the street to the Queen of England. In my eyes, we are all equal, and equally deserving of respect as human beings. But narcissists don't see that and don't view the world that way. Narcissists view the world through the lens of, there are two lots of people. There are people that they can get something from, that they want something from, or people that don't really exist and don't matter. So watch how they treat those people. That'll give you a good insight into what they're about. All right. Red flag number 9. So we're looking for controlling behaviour. So if you feel like you have to change to please him, the controlling behaviour can be really subtle at first, and it's not necessarily like, him saying, no, you're not going away, you're not allowed to leave, you're not allowed to do anything. It's more things like, if you do go out, for example, here's an example. So I remember one night going out to a work do. As I left, he seemed fine, and he made when I arrived, it was a half an hour drive away. The phone reception wasn't very good. So when I got there, I had this beautiful meal. We had a great night. Then I came outside, started driving, and my phone started going off. And it literally went ba-bing, 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 all these messages. And they started off, you smelt beautiful tonight. Nice one. And I go, oh, that's lovely. And then they started getting more and more angry, more and more volatile, more and more, where the fuck are you and what the fuck are you doing? Why the fuck aren't you responding to me? And to then, don't fucking bother coming home, fuck you. And, this is all because, I hadn't answered my phone for 2 hours. In actual fact, I had, been out of range, and it was, not because I was ignoring him. It was nothing to do with that. It was a simple, thing that happens with technology in the modern world. But to a narcissist, this narc injury occurred, and he was so angry. I mean, he lost it. So the next time I got invited to a work do, I didn't go. Of course I didn't go, because it was such a drama the last time. Like, I almost lost my relationship, and back then I still really cared because I thought what we had was real. I knew he had some problems, but I didn't realize he was a psychopath. So, I didn't go anywhere and I didn't do anything, as I said, not because of any other reason than because if I did, he would act weird, he would get angry. And so it just became not worth it. So over time, I stopped calling my friends. I stopped inviting my friends over because it was embarrassing, because he either tried to crack onto them in front of me, got drunk and cracked onto them, or sat in the lounge room watching television really loudly and totally ignoring us. I mean, that kind of behaviour, it's not overtly controlling, but it does have the desired effect. He doesn't want you to have friends around. You won't have friends coming around, because he'll make it embarrassing. He'll make it uncomfortable. He'll make it not worth the effort. Because he'll sulk for half an hour. I mean, my God, if I ever invited another man around, because I went to school, I studied with some of these guys, I worked with some of these guys, and I come from the kind of, mentality that, you know, you have, men can be friends with women. Like, it's okay. We don't all want to sleep with each other. But to a narcissist or a sociopath and psychopath, you know, they view anyone else as a threat to their relationship, and they will not tolerate it. So, you know, I think I only did it 3 times. I think it was probably only 3 times that I invited a male friend around. He could have his male friends around. That was fine. He could have his female friends around. That was fine too. But my male friends, he would totally ignore them. He would make them feel really unwelcome and uncomfortable. You know, and that kind of thing's embarrassing. So it's controlling behaviour. So keep an eye out for that, because, you know, in the beginning, you might give up control. You might think, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'm not great friends with these blokes. No, it doesn't really matter. It's okay. But it's more than that, because you're teaching them that it's okay to control you. You know, you're teaching them that all they have to do is put you under a bit of pressure, and you will back down. You'll let them have their own way. You know, so they're training you basically, and by the way you respond to them, you are also showing them, you know, your boundaries. All right, darlings, and the lucky number 10, so the red flag, the 10th red flag, is keep an eye out for inappropriate jokes or cruel jabs. You know, when they take a pot shot at you and then say, oh, only joking. You know, don't be so sensitive. I'm joking. You know, so they might make, I don't know, sexist jokes, jokes about dumb blondes. I don't know. But the thing is, keep an eye on that kind of thing, because, you know, there is humor, and there's crude humor, and then there's, you know, there's all kinds of different types of humor. But, you know, saying nasty things followed by I'm only joking doesn't negate the fact that you just said something really nasty. And if your partner is a narcissist, that is the beginning of devaluation and gaslighting. You know, saying to you, don't be silly. Now, don't be so sensitive. You know, in other words, it's your fault that you feel this way, not because I'm doing something wrong, but because of the way you're reacting to it. You know, that right there, that's gaslighting. So, all right, darlings, that's 10 red flags to keep an eye out. And as I said, you know, a lot of these red flags are for all relationships, not just specifically for narcissists and psychopaths and sociopaths. However, you know, you really do need to pay attention, because if you ignore these red flags, you know, it's 2 things happen. You start to not notice the red flags as much. So the more bullshit and abuse that you will put up with, the less red flags you actually start to notice, because you're just getting so used to being treated so badly. So that starts to happen. And the second thing is you become more and more isolated, controlled, trapped, confused, and gaslit. All right, so it's the beginning of the end. Like literally the beginning of the relationship is like the beginning of the end. They say that narcissists know. They say that they actually know the time frame or when the end is coming. Like, they know, you don't, but they do. And they always kind of have some plan going on, usually about 10 different plans going on, just in case one doesn't work out. But, you know, that's just the way they are. All right, lovelies, I'm going to leave it at that. Have a good evening. Bye.